what a beautiful thing it is that Jesus died at the cross that we may have life and have it more abundantly. And therefore, we thank you, because not all of us who were here this time last year are here. But those of us who have gathered together, we have come back again to meet at Shiloh. We have come back again to meet for the Passover. We've come back to meet again with the body of Christ in Zion in Jesus' mighty name. Now, today I want us to look at the book of 1 Samuel chapter 10, where God gives the children of Israel a new direction. The children of Israel had been complaining that they wanted a new king. And so, who was looking after his father's ranch was sent to go out to look for 3 of his lost donkeys. And as he kept looking with him and his servant, they got to a point where they were not even able to find, and then they were advised, why not go and see the prophet who will be able to tell you where your donkeys are. And on getting to Saul, instead of Saul recognizing them and trying to tell them where the donkeys are, Samuel, the prophet Samuel, now had to explain to Saul that now he is going to be anointed as the new king. And God now told Saul that your donkeys that you lost, that your father is now has been, the 3 donkeys have been found, and now your father is looking for you. Hurry up and go back home. Now, the instruction and the word of the Lord from the prophet Samuel now led Paul to follow a lot of instructions, a direction, and a path that will now lead him from moving from his old position as someone who looked just after his father's business to someone who God had now called to come and look after his inheritance. Now, God says to Saul, come and look after my inheritance. And I think God is making a call to all of us right now, and he is saying, this year, I want you to shift your eyes away from your predominant preoccupation of looking after your own business. When we are called and shifted to go and look after God's inheritance, God has a bigger agenda on his mind. God has a kingdom agenda on his mind. And hence he is saying, if I take you away from focusing on your own agenda and you go and look after my agenda, the work that I have to do, the provision that I need, and the assignment that I have for the nation of Israel can be accomplished a whole lot faster. So today, I want to encourage us and I want us to start to pray, because I am going to focus us on kingdom expansion with a view at collaboration. So the first thing I want us to do is I want all of us to start to get ourselves ready for an urgency for more of God's kingdom. We all know what we have gone through. We all know what we have been through in the last couple of years, which has allowed most of us to be so focused on chasing after the 3 lost donkeys in our father's ranch. However, God is saying, I want you to now take your eyes away, because those lost donkeys are taking your shift and putting your eyes on the simple matters. I have bigger issues to deal with. And we know that many of us went through a whole lot of trials and temptations. Some of us even went through losses, and it is now time for God. But because of the trials and the temptations that a lot of people went through, it has caused for the harvest of the kingdom of God to be ripe. Because right now, people are more ready for the gospel, people are more ready for the supernatural, and people are more ready for the unbelievable. Because if anyone had told us that what we experienced during that COVID period with a global pandemic was possible, we couldn't really imagine it going right across the world from east to west, from the North Pole to the South Pole. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't even imagine in those days. But having gone through a global pandemic, having experienced what it is for the airways to be locked down, for the seaways to be stacked up, and for the road networks to be blocked in between territories, we now know that so many things can happen. And therefore, I want to use that to tell us that this platform at Prayer Tower should be used for us to usher in the unbelievable. Why? Because with God, all things can be possible. With Him, nothing shall be impossible. Therefore, now I want us to stir up ourselves, to stir up our faith, to begin to imagine and look out for the unbelievable. Because to tell you, when the enemy brought the pandemic, he did not waste time. He did it in a big hurry. It was just flying from one country to the next, catching people like wildfire. One person would bring it into a community, and before we know it, that same community has already registered 10, 20, 40, 50, 100 people on account of one person flying in with the virus. So if the enemy can do it in a hurry, so can we. We also can do the work and the business of God in a hurry. Every territory that we lost during that pandemic time, let us have a sense of urgency towards bringing the kingdom and its expansion to the uttermost parts of the earth in 2022. I want us to start having an appetite for the unbelievable, just like Peter. Peter told Jesus, he said, "If that be you walking on the water, bid me come." Now, Peter had an appetite for the unbelievable. He didn't say, "Oh, Jesus, why are you walking on the water? Wow, this is unbelievable. Why don't you hurry up so you don't sink and quickly get on the boat?" He didn't say that. He could also have said, Peter, Jesus, while you're walking on the water, if this is you, why don't you also take all 12 of us along with you so that we also can all experience this as your disciple? No, Peter had a sense of urgency, and that's what I like about Peter. So today, we're going to use Peter as a hook and as an anchor. Peter had an urgency, a sense of urgency, a sense of wanting to partake in the unbelievable. That if it's with God all things are possible, then why can't we experience it? So that is it. Today I want us to say to Jesus, "Bid me come." Now I want us to individualize it. Even though the 12 disciples were there to have experienced, only Peter partook of the made himself available. So I want us all to individualize this growth of the kingdom by us all coming to pray on Prayer Tower and utilizing the power of collaboration to bring forth the impossible. And I'm going to take us through a little bit of a roller coaster ride so that we can see immediately that we're not the only ones. We are not the only ones. These unprecedented things, impossible miracles, they're all being showcased to us in times past in the Bible. So it is time for us as believers, after having gone through such a world shaking experience in the last couple of years, we too should now be able to give a rebuttal to say, no, our God is a God of the impossible. Instead of being focused on mundane and little things, where we are calling miracles, little situations miracles, let us start to engage the power and the force of the kingdom to create mighty and unbelievable testimonies for us here on earth, so we can bring lost souls to the Lord, so we can do the Great Commission, and so that we can show the world that truly, truly We are the salt and we are the light, because that is what we are. We're not just going to preserve, but we're going to lead the charge by helping other people who have no hope to see that God had a plan, and it was the salvation of men. God had a plan. It was to bless us and to make us richly enjoy that which is more than just enough, but to give us plenty. God had a plan that all men will not perish, but have come to Christ, to the knowledge of Christ, that no man would die, and that every man would have the ability and the opportunity to hear the gospel and come to accept Jesus Christ as Lord in readiness for the second coming of the Lord. Therefore, I want us to go through and prepare ourselves, because men, through the years, through the generations, through the centuries, the gospel has been preached. So we've moved from one a generation to the next, one season to the next, one group to the next. There have been different empires that have propagated the gospel, and different aspects and shadows and types, different groups, different types of methods in which the gospel has been propagated. And now we're getting to a season where I can sense it, I can see it, that the generals that led the charge in the time of the Pentecostal and in the time of the charismatic, in the times of the Word of Faith movement, they're all dying one by one. And I'm beginning to see that there is a need for a change of baton. There is a need for lots of succession plans. So there are many people who the leaders who led us, who the pastors who pastored us, there are many women and men of God who are beginning to see that some of their leaders are either getting tired, or some of their leaders now have to make sure that actively their ministry, the aspect of the kingdom that God has entrusted them with, has to have continuity. So I want us to arise on Prayer Tower Global. I want us to arise as the ecclesia. I want us to arise as the group of Koan ministries, you know. I want us to arise in the different nations that God has pulled us from over the last 2 years of us praying together as a group. I want us all to begin to arise to say, who is that leader who needs to pass on a baton around me? Who is that mentor that has mentored me for a period of 10, 20, 30 years? Some of us have been mentored for 30 years. If after being mentored for 30 years, it is natural that at a certain age, our mentors are going to start getting tired. Some are going to start dying. Some are going to start getting old. It is our responsibility that we must make ourselves ready and available to collect this baton so the race can carry on. You see, we have been praying. We've prayed for 2 years. We have prayed for more than 2 years in some cases. But after prayer comes action. So right now, this year has been a year in which we are moving. We have learned how to pray so that there can be a revival, a raising up of the bones to the bones, connecting to one another, a coming together in unity so that we're a force, we're a power, and we can create a vortex of anything that God has laid upon our hearts. So we have created a vortex of prayer in which prayer has now spread across the world, and we are grateful for that. But after prayer begins to the people after prayer, God begins to speak. God begins to drop words. God begins to give activities. God begins to give out action plan. God begins to give out assignments. And as he gives those assignments, some of us now need to be empowered at a higher level. Some of us have to be capacitated at a higher level to run with the new assignments. And hence the powerful platform that God has given us here on Prayer Tower.